How we doing today, guys? It's Jesse with the Comment Man Corpus Christi, bringing you news and politics through a common sense lens. So we've got a lot to get into today. First, we're going to start off with the awesome stuff that's going on at the Supreme Court. We've got one of the first challenges, legitimate challenges to Roe v. Wade in almost 30 years. So we're going to read an article from ABC News about that. We've got some stuff to cover with the COVID mandates and how they're getting struck down in the court. We've got a fun little article from Cuomo about Chris Cuomo to cover. Yeah, indefinitely suspended. And we have some really live breaking updates from the Pfizer Freedom of Information Act requests to the FDA on the information they used for the emergency use authorization. So, let's get right into it. Here's this article from ABC News. All right, so we got an article here from ABC News. Conservative Supreme Court majority appears inclined to scale back abortion rights. Well, isn't that a good thing to hear? The U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday heard historic arguments over a Mississippi law that would ban abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, with conservative justices openly raising the prospect of overturning decades of legal precedent since the Roe v. Wade decision legalizing abortion nationwide. After almost 2 hours, the conservative majority appeared headed towards changing 30 years of settled law protecting a woman's right to end a pregnancy before fetal viability and upholding the Mississippi ban, which legal scholars say could clear the way for stringent new restrictions on abortion in roughly half the country. Wouldn't that be nice? Half the country saved of babies. Viability, it seems to me, has nothing to do with choice, said Chief Justice John Roberts. Why is 15 weeks not enough time? That's not a dramatic departure from viability, Roberts added, of the state law and the line it would draw. Since the 1973 landmark ruling and the 1992 Planned Parenthood v. Casey that affirmed the decision, the court has never allowed states to prohibit the termination of pregnancies prior to fetal viability outside the womb, roughly 24 weeks, according to medical experts. I think there was an article, I can't remember what country it was, it might have been India or something like that, but I think they just got a preemie at 15 weeks that has survived and has now gone home and seems to be doing quite well with mommy and daddy at the house. So, yeah, that kind of sounds like bullshit. Mississippi argues Roe was wrongly decided and each state should be allowed to set its own policy. States' rights, 10th Amendment. Scott Stewart, the Solicitor General of Mississippi and a former clerk to Justice Clarence Thomas, spoke first, saying the precedents the Supreme Court set with Roe and Casey in 1992 damaged the democratic process and poisoned the law, adding they've choked off compromise. For 50 years, they kept this court at the center of a political battle that it can never resolve, he said. Justice Sonia Sotomayor questioned whether the court should have taken up the case since the legal right to an abortion based on viability has a long-standing precedent. There has been some difference of opinion with respect to undue burden, but the right of the woman to choose, the right to control her own body, has been fairly set since Casey and never challenged. You want us to reject the viability line and adopt something different, she said. 30 justices since Casey have reaffirmed the basic viability line. 4 said to no members of this court, but 15 justices have said yes on varying political backgrounds. Whatever. Referring to comments from Mississippi lawmakers, she said, the Senate sponsor said we're doing it because we have new justices on the Supreme Court, noting the makeup of the justices. Yeah. Will the institution survive the stench that this creates of the public perception of the Constitution and its reading our political acts? Justice Stephen Breyer stressed the importance of stare decisis, the legal principle that courts generally adhere to precedent. Like Brown v. Board of Education, which overturned a whole bunch of really nasty things, like Plessy versus Ferguson. What was that Civil War rights one? Yeah, the one about a man couldn't be free. Yeah. Jackson, to overrule this absence of compelling reason to re-examine a watershed decision that would subvert the court's legitimacy. Jesus, are you only going to court the liberal guys? Jackson Moore's, this is how they do this. God, this is horrible. Conservative justices honed in their current viability standard for roughly 24 weeks. Our Center of Reproductive Rights. The fetus has an interest in... Okay, here we go. Now we're actually... All right. As Julia Wright from the Center of Reproductive Rights, representing Jackson's Women's Health organization, the only abortion clinic in Mississippi, argued the impact of pregnancy. Alito responded, if a woman wants to be free of the burdens of pregnancy, that interest does not disappear the moment the viability line is crossed, adding, the fetus has an interest in having a life, and that doesn't change from the point before viability and after viability. When Justice Thomas asked her to identify the constitutional right at issue, whether to abortion, privacy, or autonomy, Reichman added, it's liberty. It's the textual protection in the 14th Amendment that the state can't deny someone liberty without the due process of law. Allowing states women to take control of the body to force her to undergo the physical demands for risk-altering life consequences is a fundamental deprivation for liberty, and once the court recognizes that liberty interest deserves heightened protection, it does need to draw a workable line of viability that logically balances the interest at stake. I read this on SCOTUS blog, and I was reading a lot more of the highlights of that. It was kind of like a play-by-play, like a football game would be if you saw it written out. And they really included a lot more of the conservative justices stuff. This looks like they only took mostly one side of the argument. Justice Brett Kavanaugh asked if the court's decision in Roe and Casey were wrong to begin with, and how would that counter to the stare decisis principle. The Constitution is neither pro-life nor pro-choice on abortion. If we think that the prior precedents are seriously wrong, why don't we return to neutrality? Doesn't the history of this court's practice with respect to these cases tell us that the right answer is to actually return to the position of neutrality and not stick with those precedences in the same way that all the other cases did? Later, Kavanaugh asked Solicitor General Elizabeth Polgar, adding the Biden administration's support for abortion providers. Why should this court be the arbiter rather than Congress? There will be different answers in Mississippi, in New York, different answers and in Alabama than California, because those two different states are at stake, because people in those states might value those interests in a different way, Kavanaugh said, signaling he might support. Let me redo that. There'll be different answers in Mississippi, in New York, different answers, and in Alabama than California, because there are two different interests at stake, and the people in those states might value those interests in a somewhat different way. Kavanaugh said, signaling he might support handing the issues back to the states, despite saying at his confirmation hearing that Roe was settled law. Hey man, people change. It's what happens. Prelogger replied that it's not up to the states to decide whether or not to honor fundamental rights. Really? Like the Second Amendment? You want to give that carte blanche back again too? Good. Upend all the federal laws. Former clerk to the late court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Justice Helena Kagan, Prelogger, is there like a prerequisite to going into law to have a really wild last name? Earlier said the court had never revoked a right that's so fundamental to so many Americans and so central to their ability to participate fully and equally in society. Really, killing babies. Doesn't make no sense. The court should not overrule a central component of women's liberty. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, whose personal views on abortion factored largely during her confirmation hearing last year, only to one side, raised doubts about how sweeping the impact would be if the courts decided to hear Mississippi. Don't safe haven laws take care of that, she said, referring to legislation in nearly every state allowing a parent to abandon a newborn baby without fear of prosecution in the event life circumstances make them unable to parent. Ooh, good point. Stop calling violence feminism. I am the post-Roe generation. Very nice, very nice. Majority of Americans support the Supreme Court upholding Roe v. Wade. I don't know about that, concerning how many states have been passing laws trying to ban abortion. And opposed states making it harder for abortion clinics to operate, according to, of course, an ABC News Washington Post poll. 3 in 4 Americans, including the majority of Republicans and Democrats, I'm not going to read their fucking poll because that shit's such bullshit. Marquette University poll, 73 favored upholding a 15-week ban with 32% opposed. I guess that one's not so bad. Confirmation bias overshadowing is the case. Is the Supreme Court still pending decision in a separate dispute over Texas's unprecedented 6-week abortion ban? I'm very proud that we passed that. SB 8, which has been in effect for nearly 3 months and dominated national headlines. The justices gave the Texas law a highly expedited hearing, during which a majority appeared skeptical of its enforcement scheme that encourages, decision in Mississippi and Texas cases are expected by the end of the court's term in June 2022. So we're not going to know about this until probably July. The abortion rights battle at the Supreme Court comes as Republican-led states have enacted more than 100 new abortion restrictions so far this year, according to the Guttamash Institute, a research organization that supports abortion rights. That's their problem. 21 states have laws that would quickly impose abortion bans in the event the Supreme Court overturns Roe. 14 states plus Washington, D.C. have laws explicitly protecting access to abortion care, according to Guttamash. See? You guys will be fine. Just move to one of those states. And then eventually we'll figure out how to ban it nationwide. So that's the ABC News article. I'm going to do a little wrap-up at the end on all of these. All right, on to COVID. New York Times. So the only reason, I just want to show you guys this picture real quick, but we'll read the headline. A federal judge blocks Biden's vaccine mandate for U.S. health workers. Woohoo! So I've got another article that covers all of it a little bit better, but I just wanted you guys to see this picture real quick because if you follow me on Facebook or on Twitter, I talk a lot about the protests that are going on, and I've done some videos over them, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but there's been protests happening all over the world against these vaccine mandates and the vax passports and all of that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to show you. This one's from New York. This one's in New York City. They're not as lost as some people think. And some of the posters here read, "I am not anti-vaccine. I am anti-mandatory vaccine. I am anti-COVID-19 passport." So they've got, I don't know who these people are back here, but time to stop selling us out. No mandates, freedom, my body, my choice, all kinds of stuff over here. Come and make me. So yeah, just a lot of cool stuff. And I mean, this is a very, very broad crowd, man. There's a lot of different people here. This ain't just one-sided, even over in New York, man. This is, everybody's in on this. This stuff is getting them upset. So, all right, now on to the article from The Hill. I've got it right over here. Scoot back up to the top real quick. All right, so this one kind of goes into depth on all of the different rulings that's happened in the last 36 hours, 18 hours. All right, new rulings halt Biden vaccine mandates for federal contractors and healthcare workers. So like I said, there has been 3 different rulings, and we'll explain why here in a second. A pair of rulings by separate federal judges Tuesday temporarily halted parts of the Biden administration's mandatory COVID-19 vaccine policy for certain workers. One ruling issued by a Louisiana-based federal judge effectively blocked a vaccine mandate for health workers across the county at hospitals that receive federal funding. A second ruling, oh, no videos, go away. A second ruling by a Kentucky-based federal judge paused the administration's vaccine mandate for federal contractors in Kentucky, Ohio, and Tennessee. The developments are just the latest in a string of legal setbacks for President Biden as his administration seeks to blunt the effects of a global pandemic that's already killed more than 750,000 people in the U.S. Yes, we all know. The ruling from the Louisiana-based judge dovetails with a Monday decision by yet another federal judge based in Missouri who blocked the mandate for health workers in 10 states. So see, there's number 3. Tuesday's ruling effectively extended the freeze nationwide, which is awesome. The Republican Attorney General of West Virginia, one of a dozen states plaintiffs in the latest case, celebrated the temporary win. Temporary win. So cynical. "We are pleased that the court made a sensible decision and sided with individual freedoms for healthcare workers," Patrick Morrissey said. "Our group has successfully stopped this mandate from taking effect for the time being, and we believe the mandate will be struck down permanently moving forward. The health worker mandate, which applied to healthcare facilities that received Medicare or Medicaid, was hit with lawsuits soon after an agency under the Department of Health and Human Services rolled out the rule early this month. The ruling against the healthcare worker mandate both cited concerns that the policy could lead to staffing shortages given the number of vaccine-opposed workers affected. The Biden administration has argued that the rule is necessary to slow the spread of COVID-19 among millions of healthcare workers and Medicaid patients. The vaccine doesn't stop you from getting the virus or spreading the virus. Anyway, the other Tuesday ruling, which concerned the federal contractor mandate, was narrower in scope, blocking the policy only as it applies to 3 states that were the plaintiffs in the case: Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee. I'm really upset that we were not involved in that, Texas. Ken Paxton, Governor Abbott, I'm looking at you. Contractors in other parts of the country who are subject to the mandate face a December 8th deadline. I'm so glad I don't work on that base anymore. Because, yeah, I'd be out skis. No way you're sticking me with that. So that's what's going on over there with the COVID-19 ruling. And then there's also one other thing I wanted to show from the ABC News. I was having some issues with the article earlier, so I had to take a screenshot of it, but I will leave a link down in the description so you guys can check this out and confirm exactly what I'm showing you. So this was as reported from ABC News. This is from they have like a COVID long sheet that's like all the latest updates from COVID by the hour, and like every time they have an update by the date and everything else. So you got to scroll down for a little while, but you just keep looking for when you get to November 29th at 11:34 a.m. So this might be some hopeful news for all of our federal workers, like especially all of our guys out on the base. All right. Biden to delay suspending unvaccinated federal workers until after holidays. The White House Office of Management and Budget is telling federal agencies that they should hold off on suspending or firing workers for not complying with the vaccine mandate until after the holidays, according to the memo obtained by ABC News. So this is from a memo that ABC News got. Like I said, go look at the article yourself. This change, which has not yet been publicly announced, why not? Do you know how many people are out there freaking out? Comes as President Joe Biden is putting pressure on private employers to embrace their own vaccine mandates, which are getting struck down in court left and right, as we just talked about. 92% of federal workers have already had at least one vaccine dose, according to the Office of Management and Budget. The federal workforce compliance rate stands at 96.5%. Meaning employees have had at least one vaccine dose or have a pending or approved exemption or extension request. Oh, okay, now I get it. So 92% of federal workers have already had the shot. The other 4.5%, excuse me, sorry. The other 4.5% have applied for an exemption. Okay, gotcha. So that's that one. Oh, wow, that makes it a lot easier to read. So that's what's going on with that one. Hopefully that gets announced soon because holy crap, I know a lot of people out on the base freaking out, having a hard, just being, there's all kinds of freaking out over this garbage, and it's crap they shouldn't be having to freak out over. This no mandates, period. This is garbage. Do not give up your bodily autonomy. All right. And this one's kind of just for fun. I really enjoyed when I heard about this. Breaking news from our boys over at Timcast, who we absolutely love and adore. Love their shirts, love their stuff, love their reporting. Breaking news, CNN anchor Chris Cuomo suspended from network indefinitely, ladies and gentlemen, indefinitely, which probably means they'll bring him back in 6 months. Anyway, let's enjoy it while we can. Family first, career second, a statement and a choice that may have cost Chris Cuomo his place as a top journalist and an anchor at CNN. Effective immediately, CNN anchor Chris Cuomo, brother of former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, has been suspended from the network indefinitely. Cuomo has been the host of one of CNN's most watched evening programs, Cuomo Primetime, since 2017. Yet as Tuesday, his program is being replaced with a second hour of Anderson Cooper 360. Today's announcement about Cuomo's suspension comes as a bombshell to cable news media. Cuomo has said many times that he's determined to stay on TV this year despite the sexual misconduct allegations against his brother, which resulted in Governor Cuomo's resignation earlier this year. God forbid it be all the old people he shoved into nursing homes and killed, or all the COVID-positive patients he shoved into nursing homes and killed all the old people with. Today's announcement about Cuomo's suspension came as a bombshell to cable news media. Cuomo has said many times that he is determined to stay on TV this year. I read that apart. New documents released by the New York Attorney General Letitia James on Monday revealed that longtime CNN journalist was more closely involved in his brother's defense than previously believed. All right. The New York Attorney General's office released transcripts and exhibits Monday that shed new light on Chris Cuomo's involvement in his brother's defense, a CNN spokesperson said. The documents, which were not privy to before the public release, raised serious questions. Yeah, I'm sure you weren't privy to the documents, but it's not like you didn't know what he was doing, guys. Excuse me. These documents point to a greater level of involvement in his brother's efforts that we previously knew, the spokesperson said. As a result, we have suspended Chris indefinitely pending further evaluation. Indefinitely. The released documents included text messages between Chris Cuomo and the former governor's aide, Melissa DeRosa, suggested he was instrumental in working to craft a defense against a myriad of allegations of sexual misconduct. The text messages also show that Chris Cuomo sought to use his connections in the media to help prepare his brother's team. The text messages also show that Chris Cuomo sought to use his connections in the media to help prepare his brother's team as accusers began to make their allegations against the former governor. At the time, the former governor Chris Cuomo's resignation, CNN officials acknowledged that Chris Cuomo had spoken to his brother and his brother's team. However, those interactions had reportedly stopped at the network's request in May. Obviously not. Chris Cuomo said on air in August, "I've never attacked nor encouraged anyone to attack any woman who came forward. I never made calls to press about my brother's situation." Ha! These documents released Monday seem to cast some level of doubt on the statements made by both CNN and Cuomo. Today's suspension of Cuomo is being called indefinite and is pending further internal investigation by the outlet. CNN declined to comment to Timcast regarding the focus and the length of the proposed investigation. Of course they did. So yeah, I just thought that was fun. Cuomo's a douchebag. Shout out to Chris Cuomo is worse.com, which is Stuber Gear's little website. You can pick up some really cool merch over there. No endorsement, but just friendly plug because this article was awesome. And yeah. So, and then we have a little bit of breaking news. This is kind of wild. So this is a report that just came out. I saw on Twitter earlier. Right before I started recording this video, and I just kind of want to go over some of it real quick with you guys, because this is some wild information that we're getting about the Pfizer. Well, we'll just go through and read it. It explains it all. Bombshell. This is from Gal Chaval, Ignorant Chimp. I think I've actually seen this guy. Yeah, content creator and podcast. Okay. Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff before, so I think he might have been on Timcast. As ordered by the courts, the FDA must release the data it's based its emergency use authorization for the Pfizer shot. The FDA requested the court to keep this information confidential for no less than 55 years. I'm correcting him there because I remember the original statements. The court returned with an order to release 500 documents a month. That's a lot of documents. All right. 2. We start with the first release of 30 pages on the AE. I don't know what that is, including death. Adverse events. I bet you that's what that is. Adverse events. How this product wasn't taken off the shelf within the... Now, this is all his opinion, okay, after reading through the documents. This is his opinion after reading through the documents. How this product wasn't taken off the shelf within the first months is beyond me. 1,227 deaths by February reported to these are the Pfizer and FDA documents. Read for yourself. We will click on this and we will show that in a minute to show that where all of this is coming from. All right, looking at the amount of AEs recorded for the 42,000 is jaw-dropping. What's worse, out of the recorded AE is about 1 in 37 is death. That's insane. The FDA admits these are onky records, AEs that are considered above mild. There are so much more that wasn't released. So please keep in mind that these are adverse events that were recorded in the first 3 months alone from December 1st to February 28th. By all means confirmed by Pfizer's, these are only recorded adverse events, and they might be a small sample of the true number of AEs that actually took place. All right, so there's a lot of stuff in here by methodology. I'm not going to go and read through all of this. I'm just going to try to check out some of the highlights. This stuff kind of scared me. Spontaneous. I think he corrects that a little bit, so I'm not going to read that part right now. 17 serious cases of breastfeeding babies. Serious case wasn't detailed. We're not going to read that because I don't know. I'm sure about all of that. That sounds like kind of conjecture. We're going to read through all these arguments, and if I get time, I'll do a deep dive. It's probably going to be a long video if I go through all of these, so just be prepared, and I'd really appreciate it if you watch it. Get me watch some of the other videos, get me some watch hours for that, because that one's going to take a while. Okay, here we go. Here's some of his updates. I realized that I worded something wrong in this thread. It was not a request the FDA release 500 pages a month. It was the FDA's proposal to make available the FOIA requester 500 pages a month. 360 pages, do the math. Okay, so I guess it's maybe for every single FOIA requester you get 500 pages a month. The original website this documentation from is for future release. We've already got that one up. We'll double click it just to make sure. But I think that's the same website. Yep, looks like it. Oh, maybe not. Cool. Well, we'll look at that one then too. Thank you for update I was looking for since they censored the number of total poked. Excuse me. Find it's about 37 million. Update, mistake. I wish I misworded. 270 spontaneous. It was cases and 23 other ending of a really great thing. Calculate the AE. I'll say, so there's a lot of information. Okay, and there's the end of it. So they're calculating the E. It looks like he's going to be doing updates as he's going through this stuff. So I highly recommend you go check him out on Twitter and see all of his stuff. And I will, let's look at those. Let's look at those other places real quick that he was pulling some of this stuff from. Okay, this looks like the first 38 pages. Cumulative analysis of post-authorization adverse event reports of PF0s. I'm assuming that's the poke received through 28 February 2021. Okay, so yeah, so this is where he was pulling a lot of that stuff from. And then this is Pfizer documents. Okay, this looks like it's a whole lot more stuff. So yeah, publichealthandtransparency.org. So, okay, we'll have to verify through all this stuff, but it looks like there might be quite a lot of information in there. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. I will keep you updated on that, see where it goes. That's a lot of information straight from the FDA and the clinical trials for the poke. Probably some really good information that people need to know. But always talk to your doctor. Remember that. Always talk to your doctor. So there we go. Roe v. Wade might be on the chopping block. Let's pray. Let's hope so. Everybody get down on their knees and pray to God on that one, so that way we can save all these babies' lives, and so hopefully expand our population and create even more beautiful innovations. Anybody that tries to tell you this world is overpopulated or is being insane needs to go check out a little website I love called humanprogress.org. Okay, they talk about this BS all the time. They give you all the stats and statistics that show you a flourishing population brings more innovation and inevitably always fixes the problems that the overpopulationist psychos claim are going to happen. They never come true. They never have. We haven't starved out the population. More people are being fed now than ever, and that's because of scientific technologies and innovations. So don't listen to anybody over that BS argument over. But you shouldn't need to listen to that argument anyway. If you're a moral and good person, the only question you ever have to ask anybody is, when does life begin? If they cannot answer you that question honestly and straightforward, the whole rest of their argument is BS because it's led from a false premise. Okay? An absolute false premise. So that's always the easiest question to ask. When does life begin? Well, then they try to make the argument, oh, that baby's going to suffer. It's going to be such a horrible life. Have you ever suffered? Have you ever suffered? You ever gotten broken up? You ever lost a job? You ever been heartbroken? Ever had a family member die? It's made you feel so tragic and horrible on the inside? Yeah, pain's part of life. If the pain was so bad and it was so tragic that we should kill this baby in the womb, then why didn't you commit suicide every time you lost a job, or every time you got broken up, or every time you skinned your knee, or hurt a little bit? That argument's bullshit. Okay? So, and then, of course, all of the beautiful COVID stuff. All right? We've got this getting struck down left and right. I highly recommend you, if you're a legal nerd like me, go and read some of these briefings. They are beautiful, they are glorious, and they smash this stuff down, especially the first one we got with the big OSHA mandate for 100 employees or more. So I think that's a beautiful thing. It's a very good sign. Do not give up hope. Hold the line. If you follow me on Twitter, which I highly recommend you do, you will understand what that means. There are protesters all over this world that are fighting back more than people in the United States are fighting back. How many federal employees have given in? How many of you have given in? How many people do you know have given in to these shots because they threatened you with your job? Hold the line. There's a picture on my Twitter account. There's also one on the Facebook page of a bunch of EMTs and other medical personnel in Australia. They all got fired from their jobs and they all threw their jackets on the ground the day it happened. And they wanted to show how many of them were actually gone. It's an entire street littered in jackets. They got rid of all of their emergency person. They got rid of a bunch of their emergency personnel. The people that were just heroes last year are now poof, gone, just because you don't want to get the stupid poke. No mandates, no compromise. Do not give in. Our fortunes, our lives, and our sacred honor is what we pledge to defend this country, is what our founders pledged to defend this country. And it's what you need to understand where we are at now. If we lose bodily autonomy, what's to stop them from doing anything else they want to you or your children? And when we all get thrown in the gulags together, are you going to be able to look your children in the eye and say, Daddy tried, Mommy tried? Or are you going to look them in the eye in shame and not even be able to look at them because you know you complied and you led us down this path? You see Australia, you see how bad it's gotten. They're taking indigenous people against their will and forcing them into their quarantine camps. They're concentration camps. Plain and simple. You're concentrating a bunch of people in a specific area. And all because they might have had contact with somebody who potentially had COVID. This is insane. This is where compliance gets you. Australia spent a year and a half on their knees, complying with everything they wanted, doing all the lockdowns, staying shut down in their houses, not being able to go anywhere, not being able to see anybody. And now look where they are. This stops when we make it stop. Compliance is how Australia ended up their way. That's how it goes. These guys don't care. You can't comply your way out of this. You give them an inch and they want a mile. You comply now and they know they've got you. They have something to hold over your head, and that means they own you forever. Because next time all they have to do is threaten your job again, threaten your livelihood. And now it's time for boosters. 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 4, 5 shot, 6 shot, 7 shot, more. This will end when we make it end. Do not comply. Hold the line. This is Jesse Carlson with the Common Man Corpus Christi, bringing you news and politics through a common sense lens. Thanks, guys.